Very good morning, students. Today we are going to discussing about the second gametogenesis process, that is oogenesis process. Yesterday we already completed, that is the first gametogenesis process in the male spermatogenesis process. After that the structure of the sperms also complete. Coming to the today class, we are going to discussing about the second process of the gametogenesis, oogenesis process. What is the process? Oogenesis process. Oogenesis process. Oogenesis process. Oogenesis. Oogenesis. Oogenesis process. The oogenesis process means formation of the egg cell, formation of the ovum in the female. This process takes place in the females. This process takes place inside the ovary. The inner lining of the ovary, it is consist of germinal epithelium cells. These germinal epithelium cells continuously divide. They are participated into the meiotic and meiosis divisions. Finally, they produce ovum or egg cell. This oogenesis process start at the female baby growing inside the mother womb. The female baby growing inside the mother womb. This oogenesis process takes place. This oogenesis process takes place at the time of the onset of the, there takes place of the prenatal stage, or also let's say fetal stage. The oogenesis process means formation of ovum, formation of the female gametes. Formation of the female gametes is known as the oogenesis process. This oogenesis process, it is the oogenesis process is related to the female. The spermatogenesis process, it related to the sperm cell production. Formation takes place in the males, but the oogenesis process takes place in the females. What is the main result for the oogenesis process? The finally produce ovum or egg cell. This oogenesis process takes place in the, this oogenesis process start, the oogenesis process start at the age of prenatal stage. Prenatal means the fetal life. The oogenesis process start at the time of the female baby growing inside the mother womb. This oogenesis process start. The oogenesis process start. The end of this oogenesis process. The end of the oogenesis process the end of the oogenesis process 45 to 50 years. 45 to 50 years. The 45 to 50 years. The 45 to 50 years. That is the age is known as the menopause. Meno means month. Phase means stop. The oogenesis process stop at the age of, at the time of the 45 to 50 years age. That's why the oogenesis process are also known as a discontinuous process. The oogenesis process are also known as a discontinuous process. The oogenesis process. The oogenesis, meno means month. Phase means stop. This cycle, each and every month, the female produces one egg cell. This cycle stop at the age of the 45 to 50 years is known as a menopause. The oogenesis process start at the time of the prenatal stage. Prenatal stage. Prenatal means little life. End of the oogenesis process 45 to 50 years age. This is the discontinuous process. It is the discontinuous process. For example, the spermatogenesis process in the males, it is a continuous process. In the case of female, it is the discontinuous process. It is the discontinuous process. Coming to the oogenesis process. The oogenesis process. The oogenesis process takes place inside the ovary. The oogenesis process takes place inside the ovary of the female. The oogenesis process takes place inside the ovary. If you observe the ovary, what is the shape of the ovaries? The ovaries are almond shape. The internal anatomy of the ovary. If you observe the internal anatomy of the ovary. 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 This internal anatomy of the ovary, the inner lining of the ovary. The inner lining of the ovary. The inner lining of the ovary, it is made up of, it is the germinal epithelial cells. The inner lining of the inner lining of the inner lining of the inner lining of the ovary. The inner lining of the ovary consists of germinal epithelial cells. Germinal epithelial cells. These germinal epithelial cells are also known as germinal epithelial cells. These germinal epithelial cells are also known as the oogonium mother cells or oogonium stem cells. Oogonium mother cells or ovum mother cells or oogonium mother cells. Ovum cells or oogonium mother cells. These oogonium mother cells continuously divide. They participate in the mitotic and meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. They will produce egg cells. They will produce the egg cells. They will produce the egg cell. They will produce the oogonium. This oogonium mother cell. Oogonium mother cell. Oogonium mother cells. Oogonium mother cells. Number of the oogonium mother cells are present in the inner lining of the ovary. It is continuously divided. They will produce egg or ovum. They will produce the egg or ovum. This process is known as the oogenesis process. The two important hormones also responsible. These are two important hormones. That is the FSH, LH, progesterone, estrogen. These hormones also to regulate this oogenesis process. To regulate the oogenesis process. Remember the synonym. Oogenesis. Oogenesis means formation of the female gamete. Formation of the egg or ovum. Okay. This process takes place in the females. This process, once the female baby grow inside the mother womb, this process starts. Okay, this process starts. This is known as a prenatal stage, also the fetal life. This process started. This process stopped at the age of 45 to 50 years age. That is after they reaches into the menopause condition. Menopause condition. It is the discontinuous process. This process takes place this oogenesis process takes place inside the ovary. Inside the ovary, the inner lining of the ovary is made up of germinal epithelium cells. These germinal epithelium cells, see here, each and every germinal epithelium cells, it is indicate oogonium mother cells. These oogonium mother cells continuously divide. They participated into the mitosis and meiosis process. They finally produce ovum or egg cells. This oogenesis process takes place inside the ovary. Inside the ovary of the female. Inside the ovary of the female. Coming to what is the mechanism of this oogenesis process? What is the mechanism of oogenesis process? This process takes place inside the ovary. If you observe the ovary, it is consisted of two parts. What is the first part? And if you observe the ovaries, the ovary is the ovary. Okay, it is the inner lining. It is made up of germinal epithelium cells. Germinal epithelium cells. It is made up of. It is consist of two parts. One is the cortex. One is indicate cortex. These cortex are nothing but stroma cortex. The second part of the ovary is known as a medulla. Medulla. What is the first part? Medulla. The ovary, inside the ovary, it is divided into two main parts. The first part, cortex. The cortex also known as a stroma. The second part is known as a medulla. This stroma only consists of primary follicles, secondary follicles, primary oocytes, secondary oocytes. Okay, medulla. The medulla, it is consists of blood vessels, lymphatic vessels. Blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. The cortex is consists of follicles. The follicles, the medulla is consists of blood vessels and lymphatic vessels are present in the medullary region. Coming to the mechanism of the oogenesis process. Okay, if your representation of the flow chart, you can understand in the better manner what is the oogenesis process. The oogenesis process. Coming to the mechanism of the oogenesis process. Mechanism of the oogenesis process. Mechanism of oogenesis process. Mechanism of oogenesis process. Mechanism of oogenesis process. What is the mechanism of oogenesis process? See here. Mechanism of oogenesis process. Mechanism of oogenesis process. Mechanism of oogenesis process. The mechanism of oogenesis process takes place in the once the female baby growing inside the mother womb. Inside the female baby consists of the female baby growing inside the mother womb. The female baby consists of ovaries, one pair of ovaries. Inside the ovary consists of the inner lining is made up of germinal epithelium cells. The germinal epithelium cells continuously divide. The germinal epithelium, the inner lining of the germinal epithelium known as the inner lining of the germinal epithelium cells are also known as a oogonium mother cells, or also the oogonium stem cells, are also known as a oogonium or ovum mother cells. Ovum mother cells. Okay, coming to the mechanism of oogenesis process. Mechanism of oogenesis process. Okay, for example, it is indication of the ovaries. It is indication of the ovaries. Okay, the ovaries is indication of the ovary. The inner lining it is made up of germinal epithelium cells. Inner lining is made up of germinal epithelium cells. Germinal epithelium. It is nothing but oogonium mother cells. It is nothing but ovum mother cells are also known as a oogonium mother cells are also known as a oogonium stem cells. Also known as a oogonium stem cells. See here, what is the mechanism here? What is the first one? It is the observation of the oogonium stem cells. It's observation of the oogonium stem cells. Oogonium mother cells are stem cells. See here, oogonium mother cells. If you observe the only one cell. What is the first one? Observe only one. Okay, how they will divide the continuously. Oogonium mother cell. It is the germinal epithelium cells. The germinal epithelium cells are continuously divide. Oogonium mother cells. It is indicate oogonium mother cells. It is indicate oogonium mother cells. Oogonium mother cell. Oogonium mother cell. This is oogonium mother cell. Are also known as a stem cell. Also known as a stem cell. Oogonium mother cell are stem cell. It is always indicated TN condition. TN means diploid condition. It is always indicated diploid condition. This oogonium mother cell. Oogonium mother cell. The oogonium mother cell, the continuously divide. The oogonium mother cell. The oogonium mother cell participate into the meiosis process. What is the process? Meiosis process. What is the process? Meiosis process. Once the oogonium mother cell participates in meiosis process, it is divided into two equal cells. Two equal cells here. One is the type A cell. One is the type B cells. They are divided into the two cells. Again, these two cells again is indicate continuously divide. Continuously divide. Okay, it is indicate. It is continuously divide. To the process meiosis only. What is the process? Meiosis process. What is the process? Mitosis. It is indicate type A cell. It is indicate type B cell. Type A cell, type B cell. Coming to the type B cell, see here. Type B cell, it is continuously growing the size. The type B cell continuously grow the size. Once the size is increases, is nothing but growth phase. Growth. Increase the size. Increase the size. What is the process? Meiosis process. Once the size is increases, these cells are indicate oogonium cells. It is indicated oogonium cells. Okay, these are indicate the oogonium cells. They will form. Okay, they will produce primary oocyte. It's nothing but oogonium cells. Oogonium cells. Oogonium cells. Oogonium cells continuously sizes increases. This indicate primary oocyte. It is indicate primary oocyte. The sizes increases. They continuously divide. Once they continuously divide is known as a multiplication phase. The size increase means growth phase. See here. This primary oocyte. The primary oocyte, they participated into the first meiosis division. First meiosis division. Primary oocyte participated into the first meiosis division. What is the process? Meiosis 1 process. What is the process? Meiosis 1 process. This meiosis 1 process, this primary oocyte divide into one is a large cell, one is a small cell. This small cell, it is indicate first polar body. It is indicate first polar body. It is indicate first polar body. It is indicate the primary oocyte converted into the secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte. First means first. The secondary oocyte. The secondary oocyte again participated into the meiosis 2 process. Meiosis 2 process converted into the second polar body. Second polar body is indicate ovum or egg cell. Ovum or egg cell. See here. First one, oogonium mother cells. This oogonium mother cells present in the inner lining of the ovary. This oogonium mother cells also known as stem cells. They participated into the meiosis process. Meiosis process means the equal division. The number of the millions of the divisions, the number of the millions of the cells are they continuously divide. See here, one cell again divided into the 2 cells. What is the cells? Type A cell, type B cell. So the process is known as meiosis. Here, the type B cell, somewhat compared to the type A cell, type B cells are somewhat is large. Compared to the content also more. Whenever the type B cell, their size is increases. So continuously, that is the division of the nucleus and cytoplasma. The continuous division of the nucleus and cytoplasma, the size of the cell is increases. These cells, once the cells are increased, size is known as this growth. The size of the cell is increases. These cells are indicate primary oocytes. Primary oocyte. The primary oocyte is converted into the first polar body, secondary oocyte. What is the process? Meiosis 1 process. Next one, secondary oocyte again modified into they participated into the meiosis 2 process. What is the second polar body and ovum or egg cell? Ovum or egg cell. Ovum or egg cell. How many polar bodies are formed at the end of the oogenesis process? Total 3 polar bodies, 1 egg cell. How many polar bodies are formed? This polar body again divide into the two. This polar body again divided into the two. This polar body again divided into the diploid condition only. It is also secondary oocyte. It is the haploid condition. Secondary oocyte. X cell haploid condition. Second polar body haploid condition. For the primary oocyte, diploid condition. Diploid condition is indicated. Diploid condition. It is also diploid. It is also diploid. It is also diploid. It is also diploid. These all are the diploid condition. Means 46 chromosomes. 46 chromosomes. Here also 46 chromosomes. But here 23 chromosomes. Here 23 chromosomes. 23 chromosomes. These all are diploid chromosomes. Okay. How many polar bodies are produced at the end result of the oogenesis process? 3 polar bodies, 1 egg cell or ovum. 3 polar bodies, 3 polar bodies, 3 polar bodies plus 1 ovum. 3 polar bodies. It is the end result of the oogenesis process. Oogenesis process. At the end result of the oogenesis process, how many polar bodies are formed? 3 polar bodies are formed. 1 egg cell, 1 worm cell is formed. Coming to this process, the oogenesis process takes place in the once the female baby growing inside the mother womb. Inside the mother womb. Whenever the female baby growing inside the mother womb, this stage is how they will mechanism. Oogonium converted into that is meiosis process. Continuously divide, they will produce number of the cells. These cells again the size is increases. Whenever the sizes are increases, the meiosis process start. The meiosis 1 process start before the birth only. Before the birth only. Okay. After that, this meiosis 1 is completed. The meiosis 1 is completed at the puberty. At the puberty. Okay. The meiosis process. See here. The meiosis wants the growth cells. The primary oocytes enter into the modified primary polar bodies and secondary polar bodies. This growth, it is a meiosis 1 process. The mitosis and meiosis 1 process. The meiosis 1 start. The meiosis 1. The meiosis 1 already start. The meiosis 1 already start before the birth. Before the birth. The meiosis stages. See here. The meiosis, it is consists of different stages. The meiosis consists of different stages. Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. What are the phases? Prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. The meiosis 1 is divided into 4 phases. Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. The prophase again divide into the leptotin, zygotin, pachytin, diplotin, diakinesis. What is the stages now? Diakinesis. See here. The meiosis 1 consists of prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. Okay. This prophase again divided into leptotin, zygotin, pachytin, diplotin, diakinesis. Okay. This meiosis 1 start before the birth. Meiosis 1 start before the birth. Before the birth means at the time of the birth. 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 This diplotin stage is arrested. At the time of the birth, diplotin stage is arrested. At the time of the birth, diplotin is arrested. Diplotin is arrested. Diplotin stage is arrested phase. Once the meiosis start, one is started before the birth, but the meiosis 1 is completed once the female baby reaches into the adolescence or puberty age. At the time of the birth, it is at puberty. At puberty. at puberty. The meiosis one is start before the birth. The meiosis one is completed after the puberty. Meiosis one is complete. Meiosis one is complete. The diploiding again. That is the diploiding and diaconus. What is the gap? 10 to 11 years. What is it? 10 to 11 years. Once the female baby reaches into the adolescence or puberty, this diploiding is to be converted into the diaconus stage. The remaining stages the remaining stages, they only completed here stages. Metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. Metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. These all phases are completed once the female baby reaches into the adolescence stage. At the time of the birth, it is at puberty. What is it? Puberty. The first secondary oocyte is produced. The first polar body is formed. Coming to the secondary oocyte. The secondary oocyte converted into the second polar body and over excel. The meiosis 2 process. Meiosis means prophase 2. See here, prophase 2, anaphase 2, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. Prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase 2. Okay, once the secondary oocyte is modified into the second polar body and warm egg cell, the meiosis 2 start. The meiosis 2 started. It is the metaphase 2 completed. That is the secondary oocyte converted to the secondary polar body and warm or egg cell. This prophase 2 and metaphase 2, okay, they completed. The metaphase 2 is arrested. Yes, arrested. This secondary ovum that is arrested. The secondary oocyte are arrested. Okay, coming to the anaphase 2 and telophase 2. Anaphase 2 and telophase 2. These two phases and meiosis 2. This process already meiosis 2. It is already started. Okay, once the secondary is converted to the secondary polar body and warm or egg cell. The remaining anaphase 2 and telophase 2. This process takes place in the fertilization. Fertilization. This process started in the fertilization. During the fertilization, meiosis also takes place. Meiosis 2 takes place. Anaphase 2 and telophase 2. See here, the secondary oocyte. The secondary oocyte picked up by the fimbriae. The secondary oocyte reaches into the fallopian tube. The secondary oocyte is picked up by the fallopian tube. The secondary oocyte is picked up by the fallopian tube. The second polar bodies and first polar bodies these both are degenerated. The main reason is the cytoplasma content is less. Coming to the here, primary oocyte converted into the first polar bodies and secondary oocyte. Coming to the what is the main difference between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis? See here, spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Process. What is the main difference between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis process? The spermatogenesis means the primary spermatocyte is converted into the two equal size of the primary spermatocyte converted to the secondary spermatocyte. In the case of spermatogenesis. In the case of oogenesis process, the primary oocyte, it is modified into the seed. It is not converted into the two equal division of the cell, not two equal cells. The spermatogenesis means the primary oocyte converted into the two equally divided. Size and each and every content, cytoplasm content, nucleus content. But here oogenesis process means The oogenesis process, the primary oocyte converted into the one is a small cell, one is a large cell. Means here the division of the karyokinesis and cytoplasmic division. Cytoplasmic division. What is the division here? Karyokinesis and karyokinesis. 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 Second division, cytokinesis. Cytokinesis. Karyokinesis means the nucleus is equally divided. Nucleus is equally divided. Nucleus is nuclear division. Nucleus division. Division. Nucleus is equal division. Equal division. Equal division of the nucleus, but the cytoplasma unequal division. Cytoplasma is the unequal division. Unequal division. But here the cytoplasma content and nucleus content is more compared to the here less. Here the less content. Whenever the cytoplasma content is less in the polar body, they are degenerated. Cytoplasma. Cytoplasma content less. That's why degenerate polar bodies. Degeneration of the polar bodies. Degeneration of the polar bodies. Degeneration of the polar bodies. It is the mechanism. It is the text. See here. Before the birth, after the birth. See here. The meiosis one, at the time of the birth, the meiosis one is takes place. The meiosis one is takes place before the birth. But the once the female baby reaches into the puberty or adolescence age, the meiosis one is completed. Meiosis one is completed. The end result of the oogenesis is one egg cell, three polar bodies. Here two, here one polar bodies. First one oogonia mother cells. Oogonia mother cells mitosis. They divide into the two cells, completely divided into the one cell. Again, type B cells converted into the primary oocyte cell. This above phase is known as a multiplication phase. What is a phase? Multiplication phase. Continuously divide. The size is increases. Growth phase. Growth phase. After the growth phase, the differentiation phase. What is a phase? Differentiation phase. Differentiation phase. After the puberty, these cells are primary oocyte converted to secondary oocyte to the tertiary oocyte, secondary oocyte to the converted. They are modified into the second polar bodies and warmer egg cell. According to in our textbook, they are simply represent. See here, I will represent in the according to in our textbook. According to in our NCRT textbook. According to NCRT textbook. According to NCRT textbook, how they will represent it? According to in our NCRT textbook, how they will represent? See here, how they will represent? First one, large cell. Nothing but oogonium cells or oogonium mother cells. Condition is here. Chromosomes is 46 chromosomes. According to our textbook, oogonium is nothing but oogonium mother cells. Divide into the two cells. Again divide into the two cells. Again divide into the two cells. Again divide into the two cells. What is the process, sir? Mitosis differentiation. Mitosis differentiation. See here, is indicated. Again, this cell size is increases. Size is increases. It is nothing but primary oocyte. Primary oocyte. This primary oocyte also diploid. Diploid. It is indication of the diploid condition. The primary oocyte. Again, polar body. First polar body. It is indicate secondary oocyte. Secondary, two equal divisions. N. Okay, N. What is the process? Meiosis, one process. Secondary oocyte again divided into the second polar body. Secondary oocyte modified into the ovum or egg. Ovum or egg. The secondary oocyte reaches into the fallopian tube. The ovum, it is after the meiosis tube. Meiosis 2 process. Meiosis 2 process. This primary oocyte, the meiosis 1 process, this process takes place before the birth. Before the birth. At the time of the birth. At the time of the birth. At the time of the birth, the meiosis 1. At the time of the birth, this before the birth, this process takes place. At the time of the birth, the diploiding stage is stopped or arrested. Whenever these stages are arrested, okay, at the puberty, this meiosis phase 2 is at the time of the fertilization. This indicate. This one is indicated. Fetal life, childhood, and puberty. At the time of the reaches into the puberty. Okay, these stages takes place before the birth. These stages takes place after the birth. It is the mechanism to involve to the oogenesis process. First one, oogonium mother cells. The oogonium mother cells participated into the meiosis process. The meiosis process, they continuously divide. They produce primary oocyte. The primary oocyte, secondary oocyte. The secondary oocyte will be ovum or egg cell. One ovum plus 3 polar bodies. 3 polar bodies. How many secondary oocyte? 1. How many primary oocyte? 1. How many oogoniums? 1. One ovum, and it is useful for the numericals. For example, 100 oogoniums. How many worms are produced? 100 worms. 100 oogoniums, 100 worms. Okay, it is useful for the numericals. For the one oogonium, one primary oocyte, one secondary oocyte will produce one worm or 3 polar bodies. That is a mechanism according to it is not completed. So tomorrow also we will discuss in the that is the oogenesis process, the continue of this tomorrow. Over.